Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are in the Acts of the Apostles, the book of Acts, chapter 21, verses 1 through 14. Now, prior to this, Paul has started his journey from Greece over to what's modern-day Turkey, and he's making his way to Syria and down to Jerusalem. And right before this passage, he had been meeting with the leaders from Ephesus and encouraging them in their ministry. And it was such sweet fellowship. Paul says they write that they had to tear themselves away from being with them. And, you know, our fellowship with other Christians to rejoice in the salvation that we have from Jesus Christ is a great blessing. But the purpose of that fellowship is not just so we could have a holy huddle and hide out. The purpose of that fellowship is to strengthen us and encourage us for our spiritual battle. Now, Paul is on his way down to Jerusalem, and in sort of the narrative is we sailed. We went and sailed from this place, and then we went and sailed to that place, and each time he's seeking out disciples, Christians, to have fellowship with. And each time they're urging Paul not to go. I mean, they walk him out to the ship, to the beach, and they're praying for him not to go and crying. And really, it's this weeping interference. Now, Paul goes on down to Galilee, goes to Caesarea, where he meets Philip the evangelist. This is the same Philip that had met the Ethiopian on the road and baptized him before he went on down. So he was part of the 7 deacons that Peter and the others anointed for ministry. Now, Philip has 4 prophetic daughters, and they're praying about Peter's journey and encouraging him, not to go, telling him, you're going to face this hardship. And along comes Agabus, another prophet, and he tells them, this is what's awaiting you. You're going to be bound and put on trial. And all the people are pleading with him not to go, weeping. And Paul says, why are you breaking my heart? Quite honestly, why are you giving me such a hard time about this? Don't you know I'm ready to be bound for the name of the Lord Jesus? I am ready to give my life to serve my Lord. And he said that in the previous passage where he says, I know that my life means nothing outside of the gospel. And so Paul is ready to give up his life so that the Lord's will be done. But too often, people are weeping and crying about the hardships, and we give up we don't give up the weeping. We embrace the weeping and give up God's will. Where is God calling? When people are doing this in the church, emotionally blocking God's will, I think we need to pray about that and ask the question, is this from God, or is this out of your own human fear that you're afraid of where God is calling, a disciple or calling the church? Now, he goes on he's making his way down towards Jerusalem. They stop off at the home of Manason, and it says he was one of the early disciples. And when it says that, that's a reference to one of the disciples that knew Jesus and followed him around, and probably part of the 72 that Jesus sent out. And think about that is, when Jesus sends us out, how do we weep and moan to block God's will? We shouldn't do that. We should pray for God's strength. Well, thanks, my friends. Have a blessed day.